Listen carefully. There is a moment in life when a person finally realizes the truth that changes everything about money, success, and destiny. And that truth is this: money does not follow effort. Money follows identity. Most people spend their entire lives trying to earn more, chase more, force more, yet they never stop to ask the one question that determines their entire financial future. Who must I become for wealth to trust me? Because money is not just a currency. Money is a mirror. It reflects who you are on the inside long before it multiplies on the outside. If your identity cannot hold wealth, your hands will always find a way to lose it. If your self-image is built on scarcity, you will sabotage abundance, even when it arrives. But when your identity expands, when you become the kind of person wealth gravitates toward, prosperity begins to flow with a clarity and force that defies logic. This is the law behind every fortune. The entrepreneurs who rise, the leaders who multiply opportunity, the ordinary individuals who transform into magnets of prosperity, not because they got lucky, but because they upgraded the code that shapes their destiny. Today, you are going to learn that code, the identity code of prosperity, the blueprint hidden beneath every financial decision, every opportunity you attract, and every limit you break. By the end of this message, you will understand why your income, your habits, your opportunities, all of them are simply the echo of the person you've been, and how everything changes the moment you decide to become someone new. Take a breath, settle your mind, because what you are about to hear has the power to shift not just your finances, but your identity, your future, and your entire legacy. Let us begin. There is a silent law operating beneath every financial rise and every financial collapse. A law older than any wealth strategy, stronger than any economic cycle, and more accurate than any financial prediction. And that law is this: money does not obey effort. Money obeys identity. Most people never discover this because they are trained to believe the opposite. They're told, work harder, study more, hustle longer. They assume that financial success is a formula of sweat and sacrifice. And while effort matters, effort alone has never been enough. If effort determined wealth, every laborer would be rich. Every exhausted worker would be financially free. Every person giving 12 hours a day would experience abundance. But look closely at the world around you. You will see something completely different. Some people work harder than ever and remain stuck. Others work less than expected. Yet everything they touch seems to grow. Why? Because the hidden variable is not labor, it is identity. Identity is the internal blueprint that directs your financial behavior, your subconscious decisions, your risk tolerance, your habits, your emotional responses, and even the opportunities you attract or repel. It is the invisible architecture behind your financial destiny. You do not earn beyond the limits of who you believe you are. You do not rise above the ceiling of your self-concept. This is financial psychology at the highest level. Your mind is always working to create a life consistent with your identity. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you will unconsciously make decisions that maintain struggle. If you see yourself as someone who is bad with money, you will behave in ways that remove wealth from your life. If you see yourself as ordinary, you will reject extraordinary opportunities because they feel out of place with your internal programming. But when your identity shifts, everything shifts. The subconscious mind, the powerhouse behind your choices, begins to reorganize your habits, your attention, your reactions, and your expectations. You begin to notice opportunities that were always there but invisible to your old self. Your decisions become sharper. Your discipline becomes natural. Your confidence becomes steady. This is the beginning of wealth consciousness, a mental state where your thoughts align with prosperity instead of fear. This is why lottery winners lose everything. It is why sudden millionaires often return to nothing. It is why self-made wealth endures while accidental wealth evaporates. Wealth that exceeds identity cannot stay. The identity always pulls the bank account back to its own internal level. But the opposite is also true. When identity expands, wealth begins to follow effortlessly. This is the reason why certain individuals rise from nothing and keep rising. Their external income eventually catches up to their internal belief system. Their self-image becomes a magnet for opportunity. Their behaviors naturally align with abundance. This is called wealth magnetism, the force created when your identity and your habits work in harmony with prosperity. Napoleon Hill taught that the subconscious mind is the gateway to infinite intelligence and the source of all wealth creation. But he also warned the subconscious will never perform at a level inconsistent with your identity. It will never make you wealthy if you see yourself as someone unworthy of wealth. It will never unlock high-income ideas if you believe you are not the type of person who succeeds. The subconscious mind obeys one master, your dominant identity. And this is why the greatest turning point in your financial life is not a new job, a new strategy, or a new investment. The greatest turning point is when you decide to become someone wealth can trust, someone whose identity is aligned with responsibility, growth, clarity, discipline, and vision. Because when you become that person, money no longer has a choice. It must follow you. If you want to understand why your finances look the way they do, you must stop examining the numbers and start examining the identity that produced them. Because behind every financial pattern, every rise, every fall, every breakthrough, every setback, there is an invisible blueprint shaping the entire outcome. This blueprint is what I call the wealth identity code. It is not written on paper. It is not stored in your bank. It is not determined by your education, your family background, or your starting point. The wealth identity code is written in your self-image. Buried deep inside the subconscious mind, it is the internal architecture that decides how much you believe you deserve, how much risk you tolerate, how much value you expect to create, how much opportunity you allow yourself to see, how you respond when money enters or leaves your life. People think they make financial decisions consciously, but behavioral economics reveals something different. Over 90% of choices are driven by subconscious identity patterns formed long before we ever touch money. Your mind is always working to maintain coherence between who you believe you are and the life you are living. If money contradicts your identity, the identity wins every time. This is why people sabotage themselves even when opportunities are right in front of them. It's not incompetence. It's identity conflict. If your identity says, "I'm just surviving," you will unconsciously reject opportunities that require you to think like a builder. If your identity says, "I've always struggled," you will normalize struggle even when life offers ease. If your identity says, "I'm not the type of person who gets wealthy," you will feel uncomfortable the moment money starts flowing toward you. The identity will always pull reality back to its level. This is why some individuals rise from nothing and never fall back. Their internal blueprint upgraded before the money arrived. Their habits, thinking patterns, emotional responses, and decision-making structure evolved into alignment with prosperity before prosperity showed up. When the wealth finally came, they knew how to sustain it because their identity already lived at that level. Think of identity like the operating system of a computer. You cannot run high-level applications on outdated software. Likewise, you cannot sustain high-level wealth with a self-concept built on scarcity, fear, or limitation. If you want to grow your income, you must first grow the identity that income flows through. This is what separates temporary success from permanent transformation. Many people rise quickly but fall just as fast because their external success outpaces their internal maturity. Wealth without identity alignment becomes a burden instead of a blessing. But when the identity is upgraded first, wealth becomes natural, predictable, sustainable. This is the essence of financial psychology. At the highest level, money behaves according to the identity that holds it. Ask yourself, why do some people earn more simply by showing up in a room? Why do others attract opportunities that seem impossible for the average person? Why do certain individuals multiply money while others lose it as fast as they get it? It is not luck. It is not destiny. It is identity. People with a millionaire self-image think differently, choose differently, risk differently, and behave differently long before someone calls them successful. Their identity contains the patterns that magnetize prosperity. Their subconscious programming pulls them toward abundance the way gravity pulls objects to the ground. And here is the truth that can transform your life. You are not limited by your current identity. You are limited only by the identity you refuse to upgrade. Your wealth identity code is not fixed. It is flexible, moldable, and entirely rewritable. And the moment you decide to shift it, your financial destiny begins to respond. Because money always follows who you are becoming, not who you have been. There is a force more powerful than strategy, more influential than skill, and more predictive of your financial destiny than any external circumstance. That force is the language you use about yourself. Your words are not sounds. Your words are instructions, commands. They are codes sent directly into the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind does not argue, does not negotiate, does not filter. It obeys. Napoleon Hill called this process autosuggestion, the intentional repetition of words that shape belief, and belief that shapes reality. Torah, wisdom, ancient philosophy, and modern neuroscience all agree on this one truth. You speak your identity into existence long before you live it. Think about it. Every time you say, "I'm broke," you program your mind to produce behaviors that maintain lack. Every time you say, "Money is stressful," your nervous system treats financial opportunity as a threat. Every time you say, "I can't afford that," you reinforce a mindset that blocks creativity, resourcefulness, and possibility. Your vocabulary is either building your wealth consciousness or destroying it. The subconscious mind treats your words as the blueprint for your future. It begins scanning for evidence to support what you repeatedly declare. It adjusts your confidence, your decisions, your habits, and your emotional responses to match your spoken identity. This is financial psychology at its core. Your life bends toward the language you use most often. If you repeatedly speak limitation, your identity shrinks. If you speak abundance, your identity expands. And identity expansion always precedes financial expansion. This is why wealthy individuals use a completely different vocabulary than those stuck in survival mode. They don't say, "I hope things get better." They say, "I am building something bigger. They don't say, "I don't know how." They say, "I will figure it out." They don't say, "This is too risky." They say, "This is worth learning." This is millionaire vocabulary, not because it sounds impressive, but because it programs the subconscious to think like a creator instead of a victim. Your words rewrite your identity. Your identity rewrites your behavior. Your behavior rewrites your financial destiny. This is why every major transformation begins with a shift in language. But here is the part most people never realize. Changing your words is not lying. Changing your words is leading. When you speak as the person you intend to become, your subconscious begins reorganizing your reality to match your declarations. You activate the internal mechanisms responsible for vision, confidence, problem solving, and creativity. You awaken the mindset that welcomes opportunity. This is not positive thinking. This is identity scripting the intentional use of language to sculpt the person capable of attracting and sustaining wealth. So ask yourself, what have your words been creating? An identity that pushes money away or an identity money feels safe entering? Say words often enough, and they become beliefs. Believe something long enough, and it becomes behavior. Repeat the behavior long enough, and it becomes identity. Once something becomes identity, it becomes destiny. That is the chain reaction of autosuggestion. If you want your financial life to improve, begin by improving the vocabulary you feed your mind. Replace "I'm broke," "I'm in a rebuilding season," "I can't afford that," "That is not a priority right now." "Money stresses me out," "I am learning to master resources with clarity." These small shifts open massive pathways in your subconscious pathways that lead to better decisions, stronger confidence, and more resourceful thinking. This is how wealth consciousness forms through consistent, intentional, identity-shaping language. Because the words you repeat today become the wealth you experience tomorrow, there comes a moment in every wealth journey when a person must confront a truth they were never taught in school, never shown at home, and rarely here in the modern world. Your financial life is determined not by what you do, but by the role you believe you occupy. Almost everyone sees themselves as one of three things: a worker, an earner, or at best an entrepreneur. But none of these identities create lasting prosperity. They create effort, they create activity, they create motion, but they do not create wealth. Long-term, sustainable wealth belongs to a different role entirely, the steward, and beyond that, the highest role of all, the creator. Let's break this open. A worker thinks in terms of paychecks. An earner thinks in terms of income. Even an entrepreneur often thinks in terms of revenue, but a steward thinks in terms of multiplication. A steward asks, "How do I increase what has been placed in my hands? How do I grow value? How do I protect, direct, and expand resources with wisdom?" This shift in identity from earner to steward is the turning point that transforms financial instability into financial strength. Because stewardship is not about how much money you currently have. It is about how you handle whatever money you have now. If you steward $10 well, you will steward $10,000 well. If you mismanage $10, you will mismanage $10,000. The number doesn't make you wiser. The identity does. This is why wealth never begins with riches. It begins with responsibility. But there is a level even higher, a level where wealth becomes natural, effortless, and generational. That level is the creator. A creator sees money not as something to earn or even manage, but as something to generate through value, vision, and contribution. A creator asks different questions. How can I solve a problem that improves lives? How can I build something that outlives me? How can I turn ideas into assets? How can I transform skill into value and value into wealth? This is the mindset of high earners, innovators, builders, and those who leave generational legacies. They don't chase money, they attract it by becoming the source of value. This is the heart of wealth magnetism. Money gravitates toward the person who amplifies value, who multiplies opportunity, who elevates environments simply by entering them. But here is where identity becomes crucial. If you see yourself only as a worker, you will make decisions that limit your future. If you see yourself only as an earner, you will spend your life trading time for income. If you see yourself only as an entrepreneur, you may work endlessly without scaling. But when you begin to see yourself as a steward and later, as a creator, your entire financial universe expands. You begin managing resources with wisdom. You begin thinking in terms of long-term value rather than short-term gratification. You begin making decisions that align with generational wealth, not temporary comfort. You begin operating from abundance, clarity, and purpose. This identity shift does not require millions. It requires mindset. You can practice stewardship today with your time, with your skills, with your relationships, with your money. You can practice creativity today by solving problems, increasing value, learning new skills, and improving the world around you. This is where prosperity truly begins, with a role upgrade. The moment you stop seeing yourself as someone who earns money and start seeing yourself as someone who multiplies value, your relationship with wealth changes forever, because stewards attract increase, creators attract opportunity, and identity always precedes income. There is a pattern you will see in every story of greatness, every rise from poverty to prosperity, every transformation from ordinary to exceptional. It is a pattern so consistent, so universal, that once you recognize it, you'll see it everywhere. Life tests identity before it releases increase. People often believe wealth comes the moment they want it badly enough or work hard enough. But wanting is not the qualification. Effort is not the qualification. Ambition is not the qualification. The true qualification is identity, capacity, the ability to hold, manage, and multiply what you desire. If your identity is not ready, life will not give you more. And if it does, you will not keep it. This is why people lose opportunities they prayed for. This is why sudden wealth collapses. This is why success often arrives only after seasons of pressure, discomfort, and growth. Life is not punishing you. Life is preparing you. Every challenge, every delay, every moment that feels like not yet is shaping the identity that will be able to sustain the abundance you're asking for. Because increase without identity alignment is not a blessing, it is a burden. Think about your own journey. Have you noticed that when money increases but your habits don't? The money vanishes. That when opportunity expands but your mindset stays the same, the opportunity slips away. That when doors open but your discipline is weak, you walk backward through them. This is not failure. It is identity revealing capacity. Life is showing you the truth. You cannot receive beyond what your identity can sustain. This is why the most powerful form of wealth building is not financial strategy. It is capacity building, expanding your resilience, strengthening your discipline, deepening your clarity, refining your decision-making. These inner upgrades increase your ability to handle the outer blessings you seek. Imagine someone gives you $1 million today. If your identity is prepared, that money becomes seed, something to multiply, protect, and grow. But if your identity is unprepared, that same million becomes chaos, something to waste, fear, or lose. The amount was never the issue. The capacity was. Napoleon Hill taught that riches respond to definiteness of purpose combined with a mind prepared for opportunity. But preparation is not simply knowledge, it is identity transformation. You become the type of person who handles wealth wisely before wealth arrives. You build the internal structure before life fills it with abundance. This is why life tests you, not to discourage you, but to develop you, not to delay you, but to expand you, not to deny you, but to strengthen you. The test is never about money. The test is always about identity. When you're learning discipline while income is small, life is preparing you for larger responsibility. When you're learning emotional control during setbacks, life is preparing you to manage pressure when the stakes are higher. When you're forced to make wise decisions with limited resources, life is training you to multiply abundance with clarity. These tests are not random. They are intentional. They are shaping you into someone wealth can trust. Wealth does not flow to desire. Wealth flows to stability, to consistency, to strength, to identity alignment. And here is the beautiful truth. Every test you pass increases your capacity. Every identity shift expands your provision. Every internal upgrade accelerates your external results. When life sees a person who can handle more, it gives more. Not out of luck, but out of law. Because identity always precedes provision, and provision always rushes toward the person ready to receive it. Across history, there is one story that perfectly illustrates the law. We've been uncovering the law that identity must expand before wealth can multiply. It is the story of Abram becoming Abraham, not as a religious doctrine, but as a universal blueprint for transformation. Before the world ever saw the Abraham who became a father of nations, a builder of legacy, a man whose influence shaped civilizations, there was Abram, a man living beneath the level of his true potential. He was successful by the standards of his time. He possessed livestock, resources, servants, and influence. But his identity was too small for the destiny ahead of him. He had wealth, yes, but he did not yet have the identity that could sustain generational impact. So, before anything changed in his external world, before abundance expanded, before legacy unfolded, before the next chapter of his life could begin, one thing had to shift: his identity. The transformation was subtle in appearance, but seismic in effect. His name changed from Abram to Abraham. On the surface, it was a shift of letters. In reality, it was a shift of destiny. It represented an identity upgrade from exalted father to father of many nations. The identity expanded before the evidence arrived. This is the pattern of prosperity found in every life that rises from ordinary to extraordinary. Identity first, provision second, impact last. Abraham had to walk, think, breathe, decide, and behave as the father of nations long before he saw any sign of the promise. He had to live into the future identity while still standing inside the present reality. He had to align his thoughts, emotions, and actions with a destiny that had not yet appeared. This is prosperity architecture, building the internal structure before the external blessing arrives. And it is the same law that governs your financial rise today. Before you receive the wealth you envision, your identity must expand to match the size of the future you are building. Your habits must rise. Your discipline must rise. Your capacity must rise. Your self-image must rise. Your vision must become larger than your environment. Wealth cannot fit into a self-concept that is too small. Generational abundance cannot flow through a mind that still thinks in terms of survival. Opportunity cannot land on a foundation that cracks under pressure. Like Abraham, you are being asked to outgrow who you were before you can step into who you are meant to be. This is why you may feel stretched, why you may feel uncomfortable, why life may be pulling you beyond old habits, environments, and identities. It is not punishment, it is preparation. Life is upgrading your identity so it can trust you with more. What happened to Abraham happens to anyone who experiences significant financial elevation. Their internal identity becomes too big for their old reality. Their thinking outgrows their surroundings. Their vision expands beyond what people around them can understand. This is the precursor to breakthrough. The moment Abraham's identity aligned with his destiny, everything else began to shift. Provision expanded. Influence multiplied. Legacy unfolded. The world around him began responding to the identity within him, not the other way around. This is the true law of generational wealth. Legacy is never built by accident. It is built by identity expansion. If you want a new chapter of prosperity, you must first embrace a new chapter of identity. Become the person your future requires. Raise the standard of your thinking. Strengthen the architecture of your mind. Step into the expanded version of yourself before the evidence arrives, before the income rises, before the opportunity manifests, because the breakthrough does not begin when the blessing shows up. The breakthrough begins the moment you become the person who can hold it. One of the greatest barriers to wealth is not circumstances, not background, not lack of opportunity, but a single sentence that quietly destroys potential. I've always been this way. Those 5 words have kept more people in financial struggle than any recession, any job loss, or any economic hardship. Because the moment you declare that you've always been this way, you lock your identity into a pattern that no longer serves you. You trap yourself inside a version of you that was never meant to be permanent. This belief is not truth. This belief is memory, and memory is not destiny. Your past is not a prophecy. Your habits are not your identity. Your struggles are not your ceiling. And your history has no authority over your future unless you grant it permission. Modern neuroscience proves what ancient wisdom and Napoleon Hill both taught. Identity is not fixed. Identity is programmable. The brain is capable of neuroplasticity, rewiring itself based on repetition, focus, and intentional practice. Your subconscious is capable of releasing old patterns and adopting new ones the moment you stop treating your past like a prison. But here's the truth most people avoid. Remaining the same is not a natural state. It is a choice made unconsciously, repeatedly, and emotionally until it feels like reality. Financial identity works the same way. People don't stay stuck because they lack intelligence, opportunity, or talent. They stay stuck because they continue to live from an identity designed for survival, not prosperity. If you've always been bad with money, it's because no one taught you how to think like a steward. If you've always struggled financially, it's because your environment repeated scarcity until it became your internal script. If you've always felt anxious around wealth, it's because your nervous system associated money with fear instead of possibility. These patterns are not character flaws. They are identity imprints, old software running on outdated beliefs. And here is the liberating truth. You can overwrite every pattern that no longer serves your future. You can rebuild your relationship with money through awareness, repetition, and aligned action. You can rewire your subconscious through the use of new language, new habits, and new decisions. Your identity is not a cage, it is clay. The moment you stop saying, "I've always been this way," you make space for a new possibility. I can become someone new. And that single shift from resignation to responsibility is the birthplace of financial rebirth. Think about the most successful individuals in history: entrepreneurs, leaders, innovators, creators. Almost none of them began with the identity that matched their ultimate success. They became that person through iteration, discipline, mindset shifts, and emotional mastery. Wealth did not make them different. Identity made them different long before wealth arrived. You are no exception. You are not bound by the patterns you inherited. You are not obligated to repeat the limits of your past. You do not owe loyalty to an identity that keeps you small. Growth is not betrayal. Growth is obedience to your potential. So when the old belief rises within you, "When will this ever change? Why am I like this? Maybe I'm just not a money person," stop, breathe, interrupt the script. These are not truths. These are echoes of an identity you are outgrowing. The real question is not, "Why have I always been this way?" The real question is, "Who am I willing to become now?" Because the moment you choose growth over familiarity, your subconscious begins reorganizing your entire life to match your new direction. New habits emerge. New opportunities appear. New standards form. New confidence rises. Freedom begins the moment you stop worshiping your past and start building your future. By now, you understand that money follows identity, but the question becomes, how do you upgrade that identity? Not in theory, but in practice. Not in inspiration, but in transformation. The answer lies in 7 identity shifts, 7 internal upgrades that unlock wealth consciousness and align your life with prosperity. These shifts are not complicated. They are powerful. And when practiced consistently, they rewire the subconscious, reshape behavior, and rebuild your financial destiny from the inside out. Let's walk through them one by one. Identity shift 1, the language shift: speak from your future self. Your words train your subconscious. Every sentence is a script. Every phrase is a command. You must stop speaking from your limitations and start speaking from your identity in progress. Replace self-defeating language with statements that reflect discipline, clarity, and abundance. This shift activates subconscious reprogramming and begins rewriting the story you live inside. Identity shift 2, the vision shift: see life through the eyes of who you are becoming. Most people see life through the lens of their past. Wealthy individuals see life through the lens of their potential. You must elevate your self-image to match the level of abundance you desire. This means designing a clear, detailed identity blueprint. How does your future self think? Choose, invest, protect energy. This shift shapes decision architecture and guides everything that follows. Identity shift 3, the behavior shift: act before you feel ready. Identity does not change by thinking alone. Identity changes through aligned action. Every decision you make is either reinforcing your old identity or strengthening your new one. When you choose discipline over impulse, clarity over chaos, and purpose over comfort, you train your brain to adopt high-income behavior. This is how wealth consciousness becomes embodied rather than imagined. Identity shift 4, the environment shift: surround yourself with growth, not regression. Your environment is either upgrading you or undoing you. It is impossible to maintain a prosperous mindset in a space built for survival. Clean your environment. Organize your finances. Curate the voices you listen to. Protect your time. You must create surroundings that reinforce the identity you are becoming. Environment shapes identity more powerfully than motivation ever could. Identity. Shift 5. The emotional shift master. Your inner state before money multiplies it. If you cannot regulate your emotions at your current level, you will not regulate them at a higher level. Money magnifies your emotional patterns. Stress, fear, urgency, and impulse sabotage wealth. Calm, clarity, patience, and conviction sustain it. Emotional discipline is the foundation of financial resilience and long-term prosperity. Identity shift 6. The decision shift. Choose like someone with a future, not a past. Every financial destiny is built on decisions, and every decision is built on identity. People stuck in survival mode choose based on fear. People aligned with prosperity choose based on vision. Shift from reactive decisions to intentional, strategic choices that move you toward your future self. This is where behavioral economics and subconscious alignment begin to merge. Identity shift 7, the self-worth shift. Believe you deserve to rise. This is the deepest shift of all. You cannot outperform your self-worth. If you believe abundance is for others, not for you, you will repel every opportunity life sends your way. Raising your self-worth is not arrogance. It is alignment with your potential. It is stepping into the truth that you are capable, worthy, and ready to handle more. The moment your self-worth rises, your financial ceiling shatters. These 7 identity shifts form the blueprint of your new reality. Each shift expands your capacity. Each shift strengthens your foundation. Each shift brings your internal world into alignment with the prosperity waiting for you. Because wealth does not respond to who you were yesterday, it responds to who you are becoming today. There is a moment in every transformation when the old identity is dissolving and the new identity is not yet fully formed. This moment feels uncomfortable. It feels uncertain. It feels like confusion. But confusion is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that your mind is reorganizing itself for a higher level of living. Most people misinterpret this feeling. They think, I'm lost. They think, I'm falling behind. They think, something is wrong with me. But in reality, something powerful is happening underneath the surface. Your identity is upgrading. Your subconscious is letting go of the patterns that kept you small. Your beliefs are being restructured. Your habits are being challenged. Your self-concept is being rewritten. Confusion is not the collapse of your identity. It is the construction of your next one. Think of a house undergoing renovation. At first, everything looks worse before it gets better. Walls come down. Rooms are exposed. Dust covers the floor. The structure feels unstable. But this is exactly what must happen for a stronger, more beautiful version to emerge. Your inner world operates the same way. When you begin shifting from a scarcity identity to a prosperity identity, your brain must dismantle old beliefs, break old neural pathways, and release old emotional patterns. This temporary disorientation is a natural part of subconscious realignment. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open. Confusion is the doorway between who you were and who you are becoming. Here's what most people don't realize. The first sign that your financial identity is evolving is not clarity, it is disruption. You start questioning the habits you used to tolerate. You start noticing the beliefs that no longer make sense. You start feeling uncomfortable in environments that once felt normal. You begin to sense that the person you've been is too small for the life you desire. This discomfort is a signal of growth, not regression. In financial psychology, This stage is called identity dissonance, the internal tension between your old programming and your new potential. It is the mental equivalent of a snake shedding its skin. The old identity must loosen its grip to make room for expansion. But here is the danger. Most people retreat during this stage. They return to their old habits because the old identity feels familiar even when it is limiting. They abandon growth because discomfort makes them think something is wrong. Nothing is wrong. Everything is right. Confusion is the birthplace of clarity. Uncertainty is the prelude to awakening. Identity must be unsettled before it becomes unstoppable. Think of every major breakthrough in your life. It always came after a period of questioning, stretching, or internal chaos. This is because breakthrough is never born from comfort. Breakthrough is born from identity friction, the space where the old you can no longer survive, and the new you is fighting to emerge. Prosperity requires this friction. Wealth consciousness requires this dissolving of old beliefs. Generational transformation requires this internal reordering. So, if you feel confused, if you feel uncertain, if your inner world feels in transition, good. It means the identity that produced your old financial results is dying, and the identity capable of building your future is coming alive. Lean into this season. Do not run from it. Do not numb it. Do not interpret it as failure. Interpret it correctly. Confusion is your signal that you are standing at the threshold of a new financial identity, and clarity is waiting on the other side. Because once the dust settles, once the old patterns fall away, once your subconscious locks onto the upgraded identity, you will look back and realize the confusion was not the breakdown. It was the breakthrough. After everything we've explored: identity, language, behavior, stewardship, capacity, transformation, there is one truth that rises above them all. Wealth does not flow to desire. Wealth flows to identity. Not the identity you inherited. Not the identity shaped by your past. Not the identity someone else told you to accept. But the identity you intentionally choose, design, and embody every single day. The greatest turning point in your financial life is not when you find the right opportunity, make the right investment, or learn a new strategy. Those are tools. They matter. But only after something deeper has taken place. You must become the person wealth trusts. Wealth is not random. Wealth is not accidental. Wealth is attracted to the individual who has built the internal structure to sustain it. This structure is made of discipline, clarity, emotional control, intentional decisions, and a vision large enough to hold abundance without collapsing under it. This is the prosperity identity, the highest version of you aligned with your future, not your history. It's the identity that thinks long-term instead of short-term, creates value instead of waiting for opportunity, acts with purpose instead of reacting from fear, protects resources instead of wasting them, invests in growth instead of clinging to comfort, moves with confidence instead of hesitation, and sees wealth as a tool for impact, not a symbol of ego. A person with a prosperity identity lives from intention, not impulse, from clarity, not chaos, from vision, not confusion. This identity does not emerge by accident. It is built choice by choice, day by day, word by word, habit by habit. And you know you are stepping into this identity when your external life begins to shift in subtle but powerful ways. You stop chasing people who drain your energy. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop tolerating environments that shrink your potential. You begin making decisions that elevate your future instead of repeating your past. you begin spending in alignment with values, not emotions. You begin speaking like someone who trusts in their ability to rise. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to feel worthy of increase. Because worthiness is the foundation of all prosperity. You cannot receive what you do not believe you deserve. You cannot hold what your identity rejects. You cannot multiply what your mindset fears. But when your identity finally expands, when the old self falls away, when your subconscious aligns with abundance, when your habits reflect discipline and self-respect, something extraordinary happens. Money begins to respond to you. Opportunities begin to seek you out. People begin to trust your leadership. Ideas begin to flow with clarity. Your internal world and external world finally match. This is not magic. This is alignment. Because money doesn't follow hope, luck, or wishes. Money follows the person who has become capable of multiplying it. So step into that identity now, not tomorrow, not when life feels perfect, not when circumstances finally shift. Step into it today, right here, right now. Declare it, live it, walk in it even before the evidence appears. Because the moment you embody the identity of someone wealth can trust, your entire financial destiny rewrites itself. A new chapter begins. A new level opens. A new future unfolds. Your identity is your blueprint. Your life is the construction, and prosperity is the outcome of who you choose to become. Before you go, take one moment, breathe, and recognize the truth rising within you. You are no longer the person you were at the beginning of this video, and you will never be that person again, because once you understand that money follows identity, once you see that your destiny is shaped from the inside out, once you realize that prosperity is a reflection of who you become, you can no longer live small, think small, or act small. You are stepping into a new identity, a higher identity, an identity that wealth recognizes, an identity that opportunity respects, an identity that your future self will thank you for. From this moment forward, walk differently, speak differently, choose differently, hold yourself to a higher standard. Not because you're pretending, but because you are finally becoming the person you were designed to be. And listen closely. If this message stirred something in you, if it awakened a strength you forgot you had, if it lit a fire under your purpose and your potential, do not let it fade. Fuel it. Hit subscribe to join thousands rising with the Hill Mindset Legacy. Tap the like button if you felt the shift in your identity today. And share this message with someone who is ready to break their old financial ceiling and step into a new destiny. Your legacy begins with identity. And your identity begins with a single decision: become the person wealth can trust. This is Hill Mindset Legacy, where we rise, we think, we build, and we become unstoppable. I'll see you in the next video. Your future is waiting.